Hello everyone, dear professionals of the public sector, representative of ministries, specialists of public finance, dear partners and colleagues. We are super excited to launch the series of webinars where we're going to explore different information systems related to public finance management. Overall, I think this is a great opportunity to have a discussion about the digitalization of the PFM, to showcase different case studies and dive deep into specific aspects of this important instrument for the government. My name is Sergey Gasparian. I'm the Business Development Executive of the PFM department at Synergy International Systems, and today I will be today's moderator. I am joined by my colleagues Haik Manukyan, a PIMS expert who is also the Program Director of PFM at Synergy, and Ali Nabi, a PFM expert. To make this session more interactive, we're going to have a live Q&A session at the end, which means that you can message our co-host Lili Makarian in the group chat, and then we will review and answer your questions at the end of the webinar or by email after the webinar. Also, after the webinar, you are going to receive the full video recording of the session, which will be posted on our website as well. All right, today we're going to speak about the technology around public investment, and more precisely, we will talk about PIMS, the types of PIMS, and we will see how specific public investment procedures can be addressed using a modern system. Our company, Synergy International Systems, is software development and consulting tech company helping governments, international organizations, and nonprofits harness the power of information technology for social impact, and we were doing that for over 25 years, since 1997. With offices worldwide and with more than 300 employees, we have successfully completed complex, large-scale projects in over 80 countries, and earned a reputation across the world as a credible, reliable partner and also adaptable partner. We have strong experience across various sectors, as diverse as public finances, justice, aid, social protection, sustainability, and energy. And more particularly, we have implemented more than 40 information systems in the domain of public finances alone. Before we start our main discussion, I want to tell you what was the inspiration behind this webinar, and more particularly behind this topic. So we were doing research and saw impressive information about the general tendency of digitalization of public finances. Let's call it digital PFM. So since the late 80s, the World Bank and other development agencies and big organizations have been very active in funding projects that were focused on methodology development, reforms, and information development of information systems on PFM, and more particularly treasury and financial management information systems, as well as public investment. And as a matter of fact, based on the report from January 2022, there were 122 completed and 25 active World Bank projects related to this. And overall, with a total project cost of around $6 billion. For us, and for me personally, this is a huge indicator of how leading experts and also institutions are envisioning effective management of public finances as a top priority. Let's start our discussion, and I have a question to our expert, Haik. Haik, you have very strong background in the development of public investment management systems, and for the last 15 years you had a chance to work as a developer, then as a technical team lead, later on as project manager of the development of dozens of PFM systems. This means that you directly saw how the PIMS is designed, developed, and then also implemented. And as far as I know, you were managing and coordinating implementation of different PFM systems in Albania, Jordan, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Kenya, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and other countries. Let's talk about the scope of PIMS. Let's understand what are the main distinctions there and what type of PIMS are there based on their scope, their coverage, and also their functionality.
Thank you, Sergey. I want to greet to all participants of this webinar. I'm very glad to be here today with you. Sergey, you gave a nice summary about the general wave of digitalization of PFM. And coming back to your question, I could say that actually there is no strict distinction between type of PIMS systems, but I will categorize them in 4 main groups. The first one and the most simple one is projects database or project bank. These type of systems usually are being managed within the Ministry of Finance only. So the other ministries don't have direct access to that system, and Ministry of Finance are tracking their projects data into that system. So it's, I could say that it's a one step forward from keeping the data of projects in Excel sheets. So this is the first layer. The second one, which is a bit more advanced systems, they are web-based systems. They allow access to line ministries to the system, which means they can directly enter the data coming from their ministry into the system instead of sharing it with other ways with the Ministry of Finance and asking them to enter that. So they have direct access to that, which is bringing like need to have more advanced features in the system. Particularly, it can be user management, so you can define who can see what and with what permissions to that data. And the third level is the same second, but with more extended tools. And type of such tool can be project concept note evaluation tool, which will allow you to bring the real concept that you have, the committees are approving the project draft submitted to them, into the system. So the system can make it more transparent and also help them to evaluate the project concept notes priorities based on the law and based on the rules that they have in the system, in the country, sorry. And also monitor the implementation process of the project and monitor not only the direct outputs and results that we're receiving from the implementation of the project, but also try to evaluate the post-implementation impact of the project. So this is coming with advanced monitoring tools for the projects. And the last one, which is like the fourth layer, it's like comprehensive system which has all the previous mentioned functionalities and features, but also it should be like deeply integrated with family of systems that the government has. And I'm glad to see that last years there is more and more attention on that sector from government side, also from donor side, that the system should be very well integrated because it's providing a lot of benefits. Like you're entering data only once, you have one data source, you don't ask anyone to enter the same data twice, you have ability to do analysis, cross-institutional analysis and reports, so it's bringing a lot of benefits. So now there is a more focus that the systems in government area should be well integrated with other systems of government. And sure, like in all sections that I said, or layers 4, there is a need to have good analytical component, which will allow you to do analysis on your data, not manually, but also provide you report builders, charts, dashboards, where you can combine, make filters, and see the data in different aspects. So having a powerful analytical component, I could say, is a must for all type of PIMS systems.
Thank you, Haik. You gave all of us great background information related to PIMS. And now I would like to address my question to Ali, who has spent most of his career working at the Ministry of Finance, and he has profound experience in the management of public finances. Ali, you used to work at the ministry both before and after the digitalization, and can you tell us a little bit what were the challenges at the first stages of the public investment framework, such as, let's say, project development and, most importantly, preparation of project concepts for submission?
Thank you so much, Sergey. Thank you, Ike. Let me first extend my warm greetings to our participants. So let me start with the representation of the situation before digitalization. Before having a dedicated system for public investment, those systems that Ike mentioned, the team were using the ministries that I was working with them. They used spreadsheets, and in some cases, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Planning, they used Microsoft Access-based, desktop-based systems. You know that dealing with spreadsheets and those access-based systems seemed very easy and viable solutions. But until we had to compile all data and make reconciliation with information from every single implementing line ministries, or in some cases, the different agencies. We used to spend a lot of time on making sure that the formatting is good, structure is good, feel and look of the documents are good, and documents are most updated. And in that situation, we were not even thinking of having any historical data. So basically, we were working in the dark and hoping that everything will go in the right directions. Another issue that we had on that time, having a unified system for decision making. And there was a lot of back and forth with different parties within the ministries, especially for the review of the project appraisal documents and project budgets. You know that when the line ministries, they prepare their projects, they usually submit project concept notes, a proposal, etc. But there was no any unified system to keep them. Another issue that I should mention that on that time, we didn't have an online system in Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Economy. The problem was that the line ministries, they had to submit their spreadsheets separately. And then the ministry, we had to reconcile them, prepare a nice report. And then after a month or so, we noticed that, well, the documents are not updated anymore. So we had to ask line ministry to submit again and again over the email. And that was an ask. Another thing that we needed to have a view of the whole life cycle of the projects, and basic digital tools just do not give us that ability to us. These are very important and basic leverages that the ministry should have to curate a robust investment program. So yeah, with that, I would like to end here. Yeah, Sergey, back to you.
Thank you, Ali. It seems like a lot of things are happening at the ministry, and most of those operations are paper-based. And since the main topic for our today's discussion is to understand how the technology can boost the institutional capacity of ministries, I believe this is the right moment to go into, let's say, a sample PIMS, and see how some of those issues raised by you can be addressed inside the system. Haik, what do you think? Can we do that?
Let me share my screen so I can present quickly how line ministries can start like initiating new project ideas into the system and submit it for approval. Okay, so I will log in using regular username and password, but the system sure supports integration with Active Directory if government has Active Directory set up, or even further, if for security reasons there is a need to use two-factor authentication, then the system can easily be integrated with different such type of 2FAs. So now I logged in as, let's say, Ministry of Construction. As Sergey mentioned it, we created some virtual country, let's say, with its requirements, and let's see how I should proceed as a line ministry to submit my new project concept note if I have an idea to submit for the approval. So in this page, you can see a dashboard, again, simple dashboard, which shows me like my ministry overall project situation. In this part, you will see how many draft projects I have, which means I'm still working on them. I didn't submit them to the ministry for their review. Then I have 4 projects which I already submitted and waiting for a decision for them. And I have already 30 which are in the progress, so they are approved. I'm free to continue with procurement and implementation and all the next steps. So down below, I see my projects, these projects, broken down into the departments of my ministry with some financial data. And the important factor here is that as a user with the appropriate permissions, I'm able to customize this page. So this is not a must-have page for everyone. We're just creating one. Later on today, I will show how to customize these pages without any coding or without any technical background. So here I see some charts. I see those projects that I have broken down into the departments, how many I have from each my department. Here I see all the years for which I have some planned expenses. Then I can see how much budget is separated for each year. Then here I see the same value as the numbers. Here I see again my departments, and for each department I see how much are like requested expenses and how much are already committed. Some funding sources are committed to pay that, so I can see that there is also a gap in some of them. Another chart here is showing for each year how much expenses I have and broken down by the category of expenses. It can be project preparation, supervision, implementation, maintenance. So this part again is customizable by the users. And also I have GIS analysis part where I can plot any data that I have in the system, which is anyhow connected to some location, as the projects can have locations. So any data for the project I can see on the map. Okay, but for the dashboards I will come again a bit later. So now let me navigate to the page which is like my working portfolio, because dashboards are for getting data and analyzing them, but I need a regular working place where I will see all my projects. I can create new one, modify the existing ones, and so on. So this is that simple page where I see all my projects. I can do a quick filter using their statuses in the workflow, or I can use this filter to find it by name. I can find any project, open it, which I will do now. But if I want to create a new one, then I have a button in the top. I can click and say new. The empty form will appear. Then I will enter information. Just to save our time, I already created one and fitted it with some data. So let's open that one.
Ike, and is this a typical public investment workflow, or everything is like hard-coded here? How flexible is this flow that we see?
Yeah, actually, based on all these years' experience that we had, we can say that there is no best workflow process that you can design and which will work for everyone. We strongly believe in that there is no way for that. And to be able to handle that situation, we design it Workflow Manager, which allows you to design the processes. This has two advantages. One, for starting a new project, you don't need any development, so no code with no code approach. You can design new processes in the system, but the more advanced option, and which is giving a better benefit, is the process that after we're handing over the systems to the governments, their administrators are able to change the process. And this is something that we see in all countries where we are working. So if they design some process, then after using it for a year or even after for a few months, they start to understand that they can make it even better. So without any developers, without any intervention from our company, I could say, they are able to do it alone without us, because we're providing all that trainings how to use those tools. Okay, so for the demo, sure, we created simple workflow. In reality, we had cases where workflow stages are 20, 50, 40, but for this we had just few steps to go, like from draft, submitted, review, approved or rejected. So this is my project form, which is again have been created as a simple. It's not a must, it's not a hard-coded solution in the system, because system provides, for the same reason as I said for the workflow, it provides also form builders, which allows our users of the system to redesign their forms. So these ones have been created using those form builders with just drag and drops and configuring the controls and fields and validations, formulas. You're like configuring the form and it's ready to be used. It's generating the code behind. So let's quickly check what we have in this sample form. So it has several sections, which you can see in top. And then down here it has like project title that we put here. It has a link with a strategy. In this demo system, we had also strategy development component, which allows you to define and develop your country's strategy. Then later on, any project can be referenced to the items of that strategy, so you can quickly see what are the projects that you're implementing to achieve your strategy. Okay, so linking to the strategy, you're defining who is the leading ministry for this project, who are participant ministries, if this is like cross-ministerial project. You can specify department, timelines for the project. Here you are selecting from your strategy the specific policy goals or objectives that this project is contributing to. Then you are defining sectors, in which sector this project is being implemented. It can be even cross-sector, you can select more, and also you are defining location, so where exactly in your country this project is being implemented. So in the second section, we put some narrative fields which rich text editor, so it will allow you to formulate some more details about your project, which you cannot do it in a structured way. This is like a Word document, you can enter it here. The third section we put in this demo is eligibility, which is showing you from the strategy that I mentioned it in the beginning, what are the key items from the strategy that are considered as priority by the government. So the strategy doesn't necessarily to have the same priority for all items in that, and the priority actually can be changed during the implementation of the strategy. So within your project implementation timeline, you see what are the items from the strategy that are considered as priority, so you can pay more attention on that. Then here we have strategic relevance. This is one of the methods that is being mainly used in many countries to calculate the priority of the concept nodes in a formula-based way, not just read the project and start to thinking if this is relevant or not, but a clear method with formulas which allows to calculate. So we implemented several different ones. This one is maybe mostly commonly used, that's why we put it in here. The idea is the following, that for each sector in the government, there is a committee responsible for that sector, so they are defining criteria for the sector for the year. So for each year you have a list of criteria based on your strategy, sure. So for this sector, for health sector, we define it as a test just 2 items, but in reality people are defining 10 or 20 criteria with their score range. So for this one, it's from 1 to 5, but the committee is free to define any range. And also defining some weight for each criteria. So as a project idea generating people who is entering this project into the system, I can answer to each criteria saying how much is the score for the specific project. Then system sure calculating you the weighted score and also the total score. Here there can be questionnaire for which, if there are some questions for which there is no like structured data answer, but narrative text or comment is needed, so this type of questions came here. And also sure, if you have some documents that you would like to attach, you can have them here. Scheduling section, here you are defining like project implementation steps. This is one of the parts which is very different from country to country. There are cases when they define just plain list like this one, so you can have steps, and for each step you are defining when you're planning to do that step, then you're reporting if it is done or not done or in the progress. But we had more advanced cases when people want to define activities and tasks and have more information about those activities and tasks. So all that coming here during the implementation. And down the table you also see a Gantt chart, similar to Microsoft Project Gantt chart, where you see the same items from above, their timeline, and based on the status of each, you can see them colored with a specific color. Here you have expenses and funding. Initially, if we are currently in the concept node phase, sure, I will not have still disbursements, but just for testing, we enter it more data rather than just the first step. So I have my commitments here and disbursements, which means if I have project concept node for which I already have agreement with some funding sources and they committed to do some even partial payments for the project, then I can enter those commitments here, because this can be important for the committee later on who is reviewing this concept node to approve it or not, so to see how financially it is ready. Okay, so here we have some commitments, and after on, if the project will be approved and during the implementation and when the disbursements will come, I can enter them here, which I already did in this table. And sure, my total expenses for the project I'm breaking down to the timeline. Here it is yearly based, but we had cases when it's quarterly or monthly based breakdown. Then project passport, which is actually somehow combining the information from the previous pages that you have entered, which can be like strategic relevance, the score that I mentioned, this one, which is showing you how many % you got from the overall possible score. So I'm 74% here. Then it shows you financial indicator, which means the expenses that you need, how many % you already have committed from someone or from different institutions. So it's calculating some data from there and helping you to generate this project priority code, which can be letters, numbers. It is again very specific country to country, but actually this code helps a lot later, which we will see a bit later, for the committee try to understand which projects should be approved first. Then we have results framework, which is maybe just 2 sentences for that. This is coming more after you have approved project and you want to monitor the process of implementation. So if you are receiving your outputs, you are putting your targets, when you should receive what, and also after the implementation is done, you can have here impact indicators as well, which will allow you to track the impact of the project, and so put the targets, what you are expecting to have after finishing the project. Then you can track actual values. And if the system is integrated with external systems, many data can automatically came here. Like we had cases when it is integrated with the Institution of Statistics. So many data automatically coming here and showing you your performance and achievement. And so when I finished entering my project data, okay, let me do not save it. So when I finished entering my data, I'm just simply submitting the project to the Ministry of Finance for their review. So this is workflow next step. After I finished, it goes, then it's becoming freeze for me. I cannot do any changes there, just waiting for a decision. Sure, the notification goes to the side who should take the decision. Then if they will send back with some comments, I will receive it, but we will see it in a few minutes, I think. Sergey, over to you.
Good. So that was really impressive. We can say that the Ministry of Construction and Housing, right, they submitted, you technically submitted a project for the construction of the hospital to the Ministry of Finance. I have a quick question to Ali, and then we'll see what happens there. But Ali, when the project is submitted for the selection, what usually happens behind the closed doors? How are those hundreds of projects evaluated in a clear and, let's say, transparent manner? And are there any typical issues that you can highlight for that part?
Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Ike, for the comprehensive presentation of the system. Yeah, you mentioned an important point. So a special committee, or really they are assigned to review all those documents that line ministries or budgetary units, let's put it that way, they submit to Ministry of Planning, or in some cases, the Ministry of Economy. It's fair to say that every review and every assessment includes additional documents. The documents that we mentioned previously, the concept notes, project proposals, and in some cases, Ministry of Planning, they are sending out a format for the line ministry to fill out and submit project information. So they review that. And additional stakeholders and additional people are involved in project development. It is really difficult to coordinate all those efforts. Different players fix their roles and responsibilities and make sure that you have green light, okay from them. This can lead to blocking up the project selection stage. The PAP framework, especially the selection stage, should be very strong, but not super difficult and overcomplicated. It should be easy for users. Furthermore, it was important to lower any factor that could have caused the project to fail. And to do so, the committee should have a bird's eye of the view of overall life cycle of the PAP projects. And also, they need to have information about some bigger and large projects that they have questioned for. So what happened that the special committees, they should have access to analytical nice reports. They should be equipped with information. For example, the reports, multi-level reports like by sector, subsector programs, breakdown by locations because they are making decisions. And lastly, they want to know the larger projects impact, economic impact, and their mapping and linkage with the strategic goal of that country. So in my opinion, the special committee should be equipped with analytical reports. And that can only be generated with the system that I just introduced to us. Yeah, back to you, Sergey.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for raising this question and generally presenting the situation from the point of view of the Ministry of Finances. So as we saw, the project for the construction of the hospital was submitted. And Haik, let's see what the technology has to offer here at this stage, and let's see what happens.
So here I already logged in as a Ministry of Finance. As I said again, for this virtual country, we're considering that Ministry of Finance is an institution who is approving and rejecting, but sure, it can be a very different way in different countries, so it's fine, we're just configuring one option here. So when I came to the similar portfolio page that I have as a Ministry of Finance, I'll see again all projects, but not only from that ministry. As I have my permissions, then I will see all the projects in the system. And as you can see, the project code, priority code that we received at the end after we entered all the necessary information is being presented here. So persons who's taking that decision, even without opening the project, can quickly see the priority. And mainly as they define it, the formulas, how the priority is calculating. So even from this few letters and digits, they already clear for them what is the priority of the project, what are the weakest part and strongest part of the project. They can filter, they can open and see the details of the project. Let me do the same here. Complex, and make a decision if they are approving it or sending back with some comments. Mainly they are not approving it from the first step because there is need for some clarification, documentations, and everything, so it can go back and forth until it will be approved. So they can open this, go with the sections, see all the details of the project, and take a decision how they are proceeding with that. But I would like now to go on the dashboard page and make it more clear how important it is to have that dynamical reporting component instead of having just even well-thinked and defined hard-coded reports. Why there is a need to have that report builders, even page builders. So I have two dashboard page here, but there is no actual limit how many I can create. As a user who has that permission, I can create as many dashboards as I need, group them with some categories, even share with others. So let me open one of the dashboards just to show some reports there. Then we can try to create a simple report together. So this one, executive overview of PIP, as we called it, as I'm user, I'm free to call it as I want. So I created my dashboard page, give it a name. Then I wanted to see the overall financial situation, let's say. To do that, I just put it, ask the system, show me planned expenses for all ministries, so all together. Then I said, okay, show me total commitment amount. So I can see, okay, this is the requested budget. These are the commitments that I already have. This means there is a gap between them. I have to think about it, how I'm covering it. And here, this is already considering that we are in the process of implementation, so disbursement have been released already. So I can see how much have been already released. In the beginning, when I talked about integrations, this is another highlight that we can see. If the aid management system of the country will be integrated with this, even if it will be independent system, but it can be a component in this system, but even if it is independent and integrated with this, it gives the best benefit. So the decision makers can see overall situation in the country and not only about the projects which are being funded from state budget. So it's showing me overall situation. Here we put just two sample charts. This is total commitment by economic sectors. As I presented in the project form, we assume that we have sectors in the country, even subsectors. So I can see how our commitments, overall commitments across all institutions are distributed across the sectors. So I can see that for transport sector, I have most. This is, as I said, virtual country, no real data here. So I can see distribution of commitments across sectors. In this one, I see planned expenses per year by percent. Here I see all the projects across all institutions. These ones are the projects that have been already selected. So green light is given for them to start implementation. In this chart, I have my sectors, water supply and all my sectors. And for each sector, I have several values with color. You can see here, I have the blue one showing me the gap. How much is the gap, financial gap, which is difference of total expenses and total commitments. How much is total disbursement, total commitment, and expenses. So with colors, you can see the situation in each sector. These are the numbers for that. Then I have commitment breakdown here by funding sources. So the overall commitment broken down into by funding sources. As I said, for this one, we have aid management component as well integrated in it. So it's showing me all funding sources for the country. Okay. For now, let's try to create simple chart, because my main message here is a need to have that flexibility to design your chart, because every time when you are facing a real situation, at that moment you are defining what exactly you need from the system. So there is no way that you can have few charts and work with them every month, just export and print them, like share them, and that's it. You need those builders. So in the right side, you will see all analytical components that we have in the system, and this list actually is being extended by the time with more components. So let's try to create simple bar chart or column chart with some values. So to do that, what I have to do, I'm just dragging it from here, drop on the page. Let's assume I want to make it a bit wider, so I want it to take the whole place. Click on that, say what information I want to see. Let's say I want to see about sectors. Sectors for program investment projects, and for each sector I want to see how many projects I have. So I can select programs, number of programs. That's it. The chart is there. I'm saving, and I have it now in my dashboard. Sure, let me scroll down, and that data is here. And the important factor for the dashboard is the following, that anytime you open the dashboard, you see a data as of at that moment. So when you are saving a dashboard, you are just saving the structure of dashboard, not the data. Data will be executed any moment someone will open it. Sure, after you created your dashboards, you can export them to PDF, Excel, or Word, or going even further, you can share it with external systems. This is again something that governments like and use a lot. So if they have some public portals where they want to share some information, then they are sharing this chart and putting it directly in their website. So anytime anyone is opening that portal, which is physically independent, completely independent from this system. So anytime they open it, they see up-to-date data from this one. Okay, so this is about most important components of the systems that I would like to highlight. So this is dashboard builders, report builders, sharing them internally or externally, user management component. As you saw, I entered with different users. Because of time shortage, I used only 2, but you can imagine in a government, organizational like institutional structure, how many layers you have, and the administrators should be free to define all the roles and their permission for each role. So there will be no security issues or data sharing issue. So all that is a must for such comprehensive systems. Workflow builders, which allows you to define new processes, customize the processes, and in workflow process define roles and permissions for each step, who can do what, when, who should receive notification. So all that customization should be in place. Maybe during upcoming webinars, maybe we will have a session where I can show how exactly is that being done. And sure, form builders, which allows you to define the scope of data that you want to enter into the system on your own. This is giving all the ownership of the institution handling the system, so they can customize almost everything in the system and be independent. So during the timeline when the processes will be changed in the country, improved, then the ministry will be able to customize the system based on the needs and be sure that the system is going together with the improvements in the country.
Haik, since you just told us about the changes in different procedures and policies, since we're inside the system, can you very briefly show us how a typical workflow can be changed? And then after that, we will have our Q&A session with our audience.
So in this section, I have business processes component on which my user has permission, so I can see it. So when I open it, I can see workflow management, where I will see the list of all processes that I created in the system. I can create new one, or I can modify the existing. Let me open them. So this is, if we will compare this with the reality, it's a very simple workflow. In reality, we have much advanced ones. So it's starting from here. Let me zoom out a bit. So it starts from here, goes from the steps to steps, and I'm defining each step. Let's say I want to add a new step, which is after approved strategic goals, I want to send the project to another state before it will go to final. So I'm just clicking add. I can say test state. Then add, and the state is here. Then I can link it. I can make a link, say send to the test state, and that's it. So when the project will reach to this state, then will be 2 options: go to the test state or go to the final approval. As you saw, no any changes in the database, in the application, everything, when I click save, everything is being generated automatically. and from this moment the projects are working with this flow.
Nice, fantastic. We already have some questions from our audience, and one of the questions that was repeated the most was connection to other PFM systems. Let's imagine a situation that we are in the stage of implementing PIMS, and at the end we have to connect it to other PFM systems, and let's say more particularly to IFMIS. How is your experience regarding that situation?
That is a good question, and I think it came from the real practice that people had and real issues that they faced at that moment. In real cases, in a lot of cases, we had integration with a lot of systems. For example, here, when I'm presenting the project, the financial data were there mainly planned ones. There were no actual data, so it was planned expenses per year. Disbursements were sure actual, but it's not still spending. So for such cases, we also insist that instead of asking users enter and manually feed the data into this system about actual expenses, we are integrating this with the midterm budget system or treasury system, wherever they are keeping the data. So as soon as any spending is being registered in that system, like in real time, it's also appearing here. We also keep that principle that the data should have single source. So any information that exists somewhere in other systems, there is a need to find some solution to get it here as well. So that's why we have few types of integration. Maybe the mostly common used one is with REST APIs, but also when the number of systems that becoming too many to be integrated with each other, the best solution in the technology world now is to have and implement the integration bus or integration hub, which you can imagine is a centralized component which allows all other systems to be connected to that hub and share data with each other. This gives independent to each system, so they don't have to peer-to-peer integrate with each one, because maybe one of them is sharing with another technology the data, one is sharing in JSON, one in XML, one is REST API, WSDL, so with different formats, and the centralized hub bringing all to the table so they can share data with each other. So this gives independence tomorrow when the new systems will be implemented. They don't have to go to each other and ask them for the integration. So you are just connecting to that hub, then you have access to get data from the other systems.
Thank you, Haik. We have another question, especially since Ali talked about the overall transparency issue, and I know, Haik, you highlighted the possibility of having, general public access certain parts of the system. So the question is it possible to publish the new reports that were generated, and can other users also view those customized dashboards and reports in some sections?
Yeah, actually, sharing data, I will categorize them in three types in this system that we have. One is extracting some data from this system and using it externally in Word, Excel, or PDF format. So any report that you will create, it can be this kind of freeform report, chart, even GIS or tabular reports, which are being used most commonly in this sector. So you can export to Excel and continue to work there. This is the first type of data sharing. The second one is internal sharing, which means when you're creating a dashboard page, you can say if it is private or public. Public, again, means public for other users of the system, not completely public. And also you can share your dashboard, your private dashboard, with a specific group of users of the system. It can be institution, role, or specific person, so you can share with them. So this is the second type of data sharing or report sharing. And the third one, if you want to share live report, with external system, which can be like public sharing. In that case, you are creating report, you are sharing it, the system gives you a link which is accessible publicly. So anyone will click on that link, you can send it by email. So anyone will click on that link, that report will be shown for them. Sure, they will not be logged in into the system, so the whole screen will be just that report. Okay, the most benefit, the first one, compare it, if you will share it with Excel, is the fact that when you're sharing with link, it means anytime anyone will click on that report, he will see up-to-date data. So the report will be generated as of that moment. But if you will export and share it with Excel, sure, then it will be as of the moment that you exported it from the system. And also, sorry, one important thing here is filtering. Because up to now, I was showing that I'm seeing all the projects. I want to see for all sectors, for all locations. But mainly when I am doing some specific analysis, I'm focused on something specific, not everything in the system. And for that reason, I should be able to set up some filters. And to do that, I will need like filter builder component, which should allow me to set up different specific filters, which can be, okay, show me the projects for which the cost is above 1 million, or which are in this sector, or which are in this location. But also I can combine the filters and make advanced filter, which is show me all projects which are being implemented in region 1 and for which the cost is above 1 million and where the funding source, one of funding sources is USAID, for example. Okay, so this is again something that is a must to have that filter builder for all dashboards.
Thank you, Haik. Thank you. We have another question regarding general, like let's say, timelines of system implementation, and it says that usually the total reform that includes policy changes and also system development, change management, and overall it can take around, on average, 7 to 8 years. And in this case, how long does it actually take to develop PIMS based on your experience and based on the experience that you had in all those countries?
Yeah, this is a bit, let's say, heavy question because I'll separate the phases of the implementation into like 3 steps. First is when government, mainly together with international experts, are defining their processes, because when you're coming to digitalization, you need to have some kind of strict formulas, processes, definitions. It cannot be like each project is working with a different flow, different type of prioritization, approval. So you have to set up that clear forms, processes. You have to define who are responsible for what after the system will be ready. So all the process definitions, policies, everything should be defined well. Then the second phase is when you're starting the implementation of the system. And the third one, when you are like integrating it into all ministries, like doing trainings and like equipping the ministries with computers, internet, I don't know, all the necessary hardware and trainings you have to be done, have to do. So the second phase, which is the main question comes here, implementation, it is so hardly connected to the first phase that even it's hard to say how long the second phase should take. So if you are doing the first stage, which is policy definition, the process definition well and clear, then the actual implementation of the system can take about 6 months or 8 months. So it's about months. But when you are having a big gap in the first work, then when you start to implement the system, then people who are doing need assessment for the project to start the implementation. Then they are starting to raise a lot of questions that, look, for this process, there's no clarity. So let's clarify this one. And that process can take a year or 2. So that's why it's best to have a good and best planning from the beginning so you can have smooth implementation of the project. So That's why for the development itself, it's very hard to say how long it will take. I can say the best one will be from 6 to 8 months, but it can take up to 2 years.
It's good that you mentioned that it's possible to speak in terms of the schedule in months. Also, we received more questions, but at the same time, I think we will reply to some of the questions after the webinar using email communication. And for now, I think it's the right moment to end this discussion, which was very fruitful. At the same time, you will have the video recording sent to you after the webinar. So dear participants, we are really grateful that you spent this 1 hour with us. I'm grateful and thankful to our experts. And overall, we understood how the information technologies can help us to raise the institutional capacity of ministries, especially for public finances. I want to thank my team and for all of you being here, and we will meet in the upcoming months to speak more about PFM systems, especially we covered only certain parts of public investment flow, and I think it will be a good idea to go deeper into the parts that the stages that happen after this election. So make sure to follow our social media pages and look out for our email on PFM related news. And also you can reach out to me personally or to our experts regarding specific inquiries about the PIMS and other PFM systems. So have a great and productive day, and goodbye.